Hi, my name's Amelia. Welcome to the Gray Lamb. This is a channel where I discuss and unpack things as I'm learning them about narcissistic abuse, while also, this is a therapy for me, is opening up and sharing my truth about what I've experienced as the child of two narcissists, two black sheep, two people that had lots of problems that I am now estranged from. So I've been in therapy for decades and estranged from my parents who have not been together since I was 5 for decades, meaning sort of on and off estrangement, meaning they try to get back in there, they do the hoovering, blah, blah, blah. So during this process of 25 years of therapy, I have made some discoveries about myself that I thought explained my situation in life, why things don't go my way, why I have conflicts, why I can't seem to get ahead, why my health is so bad, why it's very challenging for me to get along with people that I live with in a house. These are all reasons, these are all things that come from child abuse, neglect, mental and emotional abuse, being abandoned, being gaslit and lied to. The result is that I had a very hard time adapting to and establishing my life as an adult. I'm turning 50 this year, and this is the year that I'm completely estranged from my parents. I have no more communication with them. So this is the starting point of healing. This video is about the things that I looked into, whether mistakenly or not, for answers about why my life is as messed up as it is. The reason why my life was messed up was because of narcissistic abuse. That's very clear to me now, but I looked at a few other things as a possibility of wondering if these were the reasons, when the reasons were in front of me all along, and that was that I was being hurt by my parents. And by hurt, I mean being gaslit, lied to, manipulated, used. I mean, the list can go on, right? Under a facade that is not what is happening at all. That my mother is a great person, she has a sick daughter that she's helping. It's not true. It's not the truth. I'm telling the truth here on this channel to you, and thanks for listening. So years ago, I became chemically intolerant and therefore I couldn't work. I became allergic when I was working in a store that sold incense, and I had a major, major health collapse that almost kept me from university. But I was able to complete university, probably because I wasn't in contact with my parents. After that, I found it very difficult to adapt to the working world because I had relationship trauma. So any kind of dealings with people were emotionally and mentally too hard for me to deal with. I was just too sensitive to actually function in the work world. So over my most of my life, I have done odd jobs and worked in the arts and been in university on and off. So let's get to the point. Okay. So I thought maybe it was sensitivities. Okay. I thought maybe it was an abusive relationship I was in when I was a teenager. I've gone through and looked at these things, and I don't determine that these are the reasons. In my 30s, um, I started to unravel what was going on with my mother, and I wrote her a letter and I said, here's 14 people have told me that you're talking about me behind my back. So I started to unravel, but I was still trying to seek an apology. And apologies from narcissists are not real, they don't stick, and nothing good comes from them. They're usually based on your effort, your work, and not their true changing intention. They don't change. In my 40s, I became aware of something called womb twin survivorship. And knowing a little bit about my mother's history, the pregnancy, and whatnot, I discovered something without conclusive scientific proof that could have been also a factor of why I had such a hard time in life. During the pandemic, I discussed this with my mother, who was open to it and did not condemn me for bringing it up. The one thing that my parents do offer me is that they're both weirdos, so they will listen to crazy ideas. However, this idea I researched it fully for 2 years and wrote a book about it and determined that was probably my story. But it wasn't the reason why my life turned out an absolute mess. So during the pandemic, I found out that I was an abortion survivor and that during the pregnancy, my mother had an incident where she fell. She had drank a glass of wine, and it's very, very possible that I had a twin that died at that time. So this is called womb twin survivorship. It is an area that has not been fully researched, but I have all the books in my possession about it. So I fully researched it all. I was in touch with all the experts in the world about it, and I determined that it was probably the case for me. So I spent some time with my mother in the pandemic discussing these things. They're very degrading to me. My mother didn't behave in a degrading manner because it was about her and she's a narcissist. So I determined that, yeah, that's probably part of my story, but it wasn't the whole story. So years go by and I keep looking into things for an answer. I have the answer now. When you grow up with people who are not telling you the truth, who are treating you in a way that is creating problems in your life, creating setbacks, that is where things go wrong. It's not necessarily incidents from the past that have nothing to do with anyone's intention, but it is a mix of circumstances and events. But I would say anyone who has had a difficult life, like I have, look at how people have treated you, try to actually see the truth in the patterns. So, most recently, I found out that I'm autistic. This means to me that it's an explanation of why I am very emotional, I'm very sensitive, I have health issues, I have sensory issues, and I am synesthetic. That means that I can remember things like numbers by colors, I can see words in colors as well, and I'm highly reactive to environments, especially sound. I do a lot of things that autistic people do. I do what is called special interests. So I research things and I get into them for years at a time, usually write a book about them and move on. So I'm not going to go into full detail about why I'm autistic, but I thought, okay, this has got to be the reason why I've had so many problems with people my whole life and why I don't have a family and blah, blah, blah. So years go by and I realize, no, 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 no. Again, I'm looking at myself as if it's my fault, as if something's wrong with me. So if you're autistic, yes, of course, that could affect your life socially. Is it the reason why your parents abused you? No. Should they be abusing you at all? No. So are the difficulties that you've experienced in life from you? No, they're not from you. They're not your doing. They're not your fault. And they started when you were way too young to understand anything that was going on. Thanks so much for listening to my story. And if you hear yourself in my words, I would love to hear from you in the comments below. I'm not here for subscribers. I'm not here for, engagement to make money. I have no desire for that. This channel is about healing. And if it helps you a bit, great. I listen to people and I hear things that sort of perk me up and get me closer to being more whole. So the goal of narcissistic abuse healing is for you to become you. It's for you to become whole. And as Jerry Wise says, to get the narcissistic family out of you, because that is how we feel. When we begin to peel back layers and start seeing it more and more, it's something that is kind of embedded in us that can be changed, can be helped, can be removed. You can remove how you see yourself. You can remove the lies that were told to you. There's a lot you can do, and it's hard work emotionally and mentally, but stick with it. I'm sticking with it.